This is a homage beat.
Honestly, working at like supervisor class. So nice little pay increase. And so I definitely appreciate the job, but the job affords me to work from home, and that helps just because of my living situation. And so at times I take it for granted, and I realize that I shouldn't because if I don't have this job and I've got to actually go into the office, that really messes up a lot of things. So if I'm gonna be honest, like there's certain times where I'm not as grateful as I want to be that I take things for granted.
Yeah.
And like I said, if I'm being honest, that's definitely one of the cases. In addition to the car, the old car that I had, where I just kind of wasn't as thankful and wasn't as responsible for it. But I say this: there's some dangers in having wrong expectations. What would you say are some dangers of someone who has a wrong expectation when giving a gift?
Well, so when you're giving a gift to somebody, and you're giving it only because you want them to give you something back. I know that's one example. And you mentioned it in the book. That's like an example of having the wrong intent, as well as, and you mentioned this as well in the book, like trying to manipulate somebody.
Yeah, I think that was
so. Like you give somebody a gift because you're trying to manipulate them into whatever it might be doing
because you kind of
for
spoke
you,
on
or
it.
yeah.
You said, and I think there's a difference between manipulation where I speak for myself. I know I've had friends who like they get you something and it's something real nice. So it's like you better like give me something comparable or or better. But I think there's a healthy kind of way to do it, like what you said, where you have done something for your fiance and then she's done something for you, and it's like you're not obligated to do so. You're more compelled to do so, and I think that's a healthy way when you're giving a gift, where it's like, man, this person loves me this much that they took time to do it. Not that they're trying to manipulate me, but I can clearly see that they love me, and I'm just compelled to return and do it, as opposed to there's someone trying to manipulate you. And then the other one that I gave was a sense of entitlement. And again, just listen, when I read these back, and it's like, man, how much I fail at these. Where I think I give one example in the book, but I think it's even relevant for myself. Where this we feel entitled to, and I'm still in school, to like scholarships. I always hear like times where it's like there's scholarships for like glasses wearers or whatever the case is, and I'm in a field where there's not many minorities, and as someone who is a minority, I'm like, oh, I'm getting this scholarship, and it's like I'm almost like feeling as if I'm entitled to get it just because of that factor, and it's like I had to learn the hard way. I didn't get it one semester, and it was like, oh, and it just was reality that I'm not entitled to these things. But so oftentimes we feel as if we are entitled. So I would definitely say there probably are more dangers, but just that idea of manipulation and feeling entitled. And I say anyone who receives a gift is ought to be thankful and responsible to the one who gave it. Thus, receiving a gift means one is accountable to the one who gave it. I say the Bible mentions several gifts that are given. One gift in particular that is mentioned in the Bible is children. Scripture says, "Behold, children are a gift from the Lord. The fruit of the womb, the fruit of the womb is a reward." I say having a child is not a right; it's a privilege. One does not earn a child; one is given a child. There are countless couples who are unable to have children and experience firsthand that children are gifts. And I think just being here at Vision and just definitely wanting to be very sensitive to that topic, where it's like, you just assume because people are together, because that's what happens like when you're having children, and it's like they feel that pressure to have, and it's like, well, they're not entitled, because sometimes they have that struggle, and it's just that awkward well, we don't. And we know a lot of people who are in that situation, and you realize that firsthand children are a gift. Do you, in your experience, I guess, dealing with people, do you feel people view children as a gift, or do you think that some people are more entitled to have them?
I think a lot of people, well, I'm not going to say a lot of people, I think people in general feel entitled to have kids. And I think, honestly, it's not until they're put into a situation where it may be a couple who kind of struggle to have kids. Until they see those type of situations, is their mindset changes. So it's like, I think because I guess in the world we live in, people think, okay, well, two people get together, man, they can have a kid. But honestly, it's not that simple for some people, because some people do deal with fertility issues and other kind of issues. So I feel like sometimes it's not until we're put into a tough spot, specifically with trying to have kids, that's kind of when you realize, man, like, it is a privilege and it is an honor to have a kid, because some people can't have them. So.
Now, I think that's extremely real, and it hits home as someone who does have a child, where it's like that's a privilege that a gift that God has given me. I think intellectually, people understand that children are gifts, but practically, I don't think they do. Where they idolize their children, or one of my pet peeves is like, and like I said, it's so easy to talk where parents don't prepare their children for the world. Like, you deal with people who are like calling in for their 18-year-old child, and I'm like, this is a grown person who's on the account, who can pick up the phone and call, and it's like you. And like I said, I have a daughter, and I think fathers with their daughters, they cherish them a little bit more. But it's like, my job is to raise her to go out into the world. That she's not mine forever. That first and foremost, she's a gift from God, and that I'm supposed to steward that relationship.
That's exactly right.
I raise her to be a woman, possibly a wife, possibly a mother, and to be able to be a functional human being in society, and not be dependent upon her parents, upon her father the whole time. And I don't think people have that view. And then I even, just because a lot of times I try to do research just to back some of the statements up. And just full disclosure, I wrote it in 2015, so some of the statistics may be old. But I say statistics show that 2 in 45 children experience homelessness in America each year. That's over 1.6 million children. Unfortunately, statistics like this cannot accurately quantify why this is. Nonetheless, one reason must be that someone fails to take responsibility for them. Clearly, there are other reasons, but a lack of parental responsibility is probably at the top of the list. A parent who fails to take responsibility for their child results in devastating consequences. However, one who is irresponsible with one gift is likely irresponsible with others. I say, in order to have a child, one must have sex. Now, this appears to be stating the obvious, but like children, sex is not seen as a gift. And in this sex-saturated society that we live in, what do you think that people, I know it seems like a question that has an obvious answer, but do you think people view sex as a gift?
No, they don't, because they just give it away freely, which I guess technically a gift.
I get what you're saying.
You do give it away, but because, for instance, when I give a gift to my mom or my dad or my fiance or somebody, it's like it's an honor to give them. You're honoring them. You're trying to give them something. But I think with sex, people just give it away like it's nothing. So it kind of takes away that sacredness.
Exactly, that honor that comes with it.
Right, because if you just, for instance, like, if, I don't know, I'm just giving away candy to everybody, like, I don't feel like the person is going to feel special. If that makes sense.
No, I got you.
Like, you're in class, right? And, like, or I'm not even going to use an example, but, like, if you're giving something to somebody, but you're giving it to, like, 100 other people, they're not going to feel special. It's like, well, dang, you gave this to 99 other people. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's kind of how sex is in this society, where people just give it away freely to the point where it has no value to it anymore.
And I think what you're getting at, the point that we're not responsible with it.
Exactly.
I say sex is not something one is responsible with. Rather, sex is a way to seek one's satisfaction. Undeniably, there's some truth that sex is satisfying, but there's something that one should be extremely responsible with. I say even those who have liberal views of sex advocate not to rush into it, and failing to realize that sex is a gift, one fails to be responsible. As a result, 1 in 4 teens contact a sexually transmitted disease every year. I say one does not have to hold to a biblical view of sex to recognize it's a huge responsibility. Right. And I was watching a couple of days ago, I don't know if you watched Queen Sugar. I was watching it, and there's this teen couple where The dude had his girlfriend come over, and no parents was in the house, and she was saying how she wanted to take a shower, and he was like, "I'll join you," and it was like, "Dang, bro, you trying to play like that?" And she was just like, "No, I'm not ready to have sex." So that's clearly what was on his mind,
Right.
and it's like sex is almost seen like this rites of passage. That especially as a man, that if you tell somebody else that you're saving yourself or you're a virgin or whatever the case is, they look at you like you're crazy. And it's like we don't value sex, number one, and we don't see it as a gift. And as a result, we see how it just gets trampled upon. That marriage union is no longer, as you said before, sacred. It's no longer seen as a gift. That's something I'm giving away to this person exclusively, and not to all these, because all these other people got claim to you now. You know, this is something, this sacred gift that you give, like, not everybody else done shared it. And like I said, not to shame anybody who has done that, but it's like we see the consequences of that. I think what is it called, soul ties or whatever the case is, where it's like exactly it's extremely real. And it's like once we view sex as just our right, we just do it however we see fit and with whoever we see fit. And it's like, no, sex is a gift. That's and right. Even again, if you don't come from a biblical worldview and you're not responsible with sex, I said what? STDs is a consequence, and then another consequence I say is what? Unplanned pregnancy. The corruption becomes clear when we fail to realize what gifts are and that we are to be responsible with them. If sex is not a gift, we can do it with whomever we want. Though one might be responsible and use protection, it's no guarantee. If one gets pregnant by someone they are not in a committed relationship with, will one see that child as a gift? More often than not, the answer is no. That child is generally seen as what? A burden or an inconvenience. If that child is not a gift but a burden and inconvenience, the logical conclusion is what? To get rid of that burden and inconvenience. There are those who do realize children are gifts regardless of how they enter the world. But the facts reveal half of pregnancies among American women are unintended, and 4 in 10 of these end in abortion. And I say abortion is one of those trigger words that fuels the heart of wicked men. On both sides of the argument, there are those who have extremely strong views. Unfortunately, these views result in people being judged and vilified. In these debates, people only seek to identify the problem and not the solution. Now, as I was telling you before, it's like I didn't want to skirt issues. I wanted to hit them head on. I wanted to handle them with grace, respectfully, knowing that there's people who may be reading who have endured an abortion and have had to make that tough decision, but yet at the same time highlighting that children are gifts regardless of how they enter the world. So as someone who is reading, how do you think I handled that situation? Because like I said, I didn't want to ignore it, but yet at the same time I did want to address it.
Right. No, I think you handled it well, and I think, as Christians, a lot of times we tend to skirt by issues because we are afraid of what people are going to say about it, right? Yeah. So, instead of addressing it, we'll just kind of like go around it. But I think that you handled it well. Like you said, you handled it with grace. And not from a condemning standpoint. It was done grace and love. So yeah, I think you handled it well.
No, I appreciate that, because like I said, that's always my worry, where it's just like, because I came from Liberty University. Most people are maybe familiar with Liberty, and I'm not a huge political guy. I don't really care about all that. But Liberty is very right-leaning, and they harp on, the two big issues, abortion and same-sex marriage, and they're just very, I don't want to say heavy-handed, but they exalt those issues as if the other issues aren't gospel issues. Right. So I know when you use those words, it kind of triggers people, and like I said, I stand on scripture, but yet at the same time, I also stand on how do you interact and deal with people, where Jesus, he didn't just, when I think one of the best examples is the woman at the well. He doesn't come up to her and say, "You adulterer, you're going to hell." He says, "Where's your husband?" He knows